I've been doing conventions since the early 2000s. Yes, I'm an old fart. I know all you youngsters, you youngins out there. I've been doing cons mostly to sell out, but I have gone to cons to experience them for fun. It ranges from anime to sci-fi to pony to furry. I've been to almost every convention you can imagine. Most of my experiences come from Arizona, so just keep that in heart. I am from the West Coast. I have been to a few East Coast cons. I've heard about some, and I've even been to some international conventions. I'm going to tell you about my experiences, just overall what the con circuit's like, what it's like to sell at cons, what it's like to do online cons now. And I have some fun stories to tell you because I'm cursed. I am a cursed individual. I'm very unlucky. So, the early days. Pretty much, if you've never been to a con in the early 2000s, conventions were very small. They were very niche. You typically had them in hotels. It would be a very small amount of people, maybe at most like 500 people. You'd be lucky to hit like 2,000. Of course, there were the big names. I believe San Diego started like way a long time ago, but that's a different story. Anime Expo didn't really kick off until about the 2000s. I couldn't afford to go to those. My first convention I ever went to was a 24-hour event. It was called Anime Land 2Con. I did not go all 24 hours, no. I was only a sophomore in high school, so I was about like 15, 16 at the time. I didn't have my license. I couldn't drive my car yet. Basically, I heard about it via, I went to one of the Fab events for Death Note. Yes, the live action Death Note movies. It was some person was handing out bookmarks saying, Anime Con, first one in Tucson. Hello, I live in Arizona, so I'd never been to a con. My little weeaboo self was like, oh my goodness, a convention. I did cosplay Vampire Knight, Yuki, if anyone's wondering. No, I don't have the costume anymore. I finally sold it last year. I don't think I can fit into it anymore. But that kind of gave my first taste of what a convention could be, and it kind of gave me my first inkling towards artist alleys, because I spent most of the time in they had a very small vendor hall. Like, think like your bedroom closet, how big it was. It was like 5 vendors. And one guy I talked to, and I love the idea I love art, and I love that idea. So that kind of sparked that. And plus, I didn't really know there were that many fans of anime around me, so I was like, this is awesome. I didn't start selling at my first con until Anime Land 2Con came back around, and they weren't 24 hours anymore. Now they were actually a full-blown 2-day-ish event around 2009. Actually, that was the year I graduated from high school. The picture there shown is a picture I took at the convention. Again, it was a basement-style convention, the basement of the hotel, so we were kind of out of the way. Very small vendor hall. Again, at most like 1,000 people, at most. Again, I didn't really leave outside of my state too often. I mostly did the conventions here in my local area. I did 1 or 2 up in the Phoenix area, which is the capital of Arizona. And that's where we kind of lead into my first little story. So I went to a con up in Phoenix when I was about 16 or 17 or so before I started selling at cons. I believe it was Anazona. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember the name of the con anymore. It's been so long. But we came out from, having a day at the con. We were going to go get some food nearby at a mall. And I happened to walk around my car, and I looked down at my license plate. And I thought it was kind of odd because I had just renewed my license plate, and I could see the previous year's sticker. I went, that's weird. And I realized, oh crap, someone actually tore off my renewal sticker off my plate, and they then tried to tear off on the corner. They got rid of it now, but they used to have in the other corner whatever your month was. So someone tried to steal the month sticker off my car, but they got my renewal sticker. I was so livid. My mom, of course, I'm looking at her going, who did this at an anime con? Who would do this? But yeah, so someone stole my sticker off my license plate. I don't remember my mom, I think she contacted DMV and we got the resolved, obviously. But the irony is that when you get your renewal sticker, they put your plate number on that sticker. So if you put that in your car and a cop runs it, they're going to say that doesn't match. But yeah, so someone out there, one of my first cons I ever went to, stole the sticker off my license plate. I hope they're happy. They ruined that con for me. Not really. It wasn't really ruined, but it made me feel a little insecure knowing that somebody was touching my car, and that made me kind of leery about some cons. Don't leave anything in your car. Just don't. And that was also kind of in that same vein. In those early years, I went to my first major convention. I went to Phoenix Comic Con. I didn't sell at it yet. I went for, I think, 3 of the 4 days. My mom wanted to leave a day early. We had gotten a flyer in the mail, and my mom said, fine, it's only an hour and a half drive to Phoenix. Let's go. And oh, Nelly, when you go from like a small rinky-dink little con, a hotel, to a monster of a convention center where it fits anywhere from 45 to 100,000 people, it is a big difference. The funny thing is, like, I would say almost 85% of my time I spent in the vendor hall is because it was so big, for one, and two, I just kept thinking, did I miss something? Did I miss someone else? Do I want to buy something? And yeah, there were some panels that we're interested in, but not a lot. I met some of the voice actors they had that year. It was kind of cool. They had I don't know if anyone remembers the show from BBC, not BBC, what BBC and what Sci-Fi. It was called Being Human. They had 2 versions, and a UK version. They had one of the American actors, the guy who plays the vampire. And I saw him, and Mom and I were both giggly, like, "Oh, hey, it's the vampire guy from Being Human." And we went over and talked to him, and it was funny because we saw him, and he was holding his hands kind of close to his chest, like he didn't want to touch us. So we just said, we said, "Hi, we like you on the show," and he was like, "Oh, really? You do? You watch it?" We're like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, thank you." Like, he was so soft spoken, he was so cute. And there I met Tara Strong, who voices a ton of voices, from My Little Pony to Timmy Turner to Raven to, I have her picture next to my computer here. It was definitely an experience because the voice actors, she was kind of okay, but she kind of held her hand out and was like, "Give me money." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Autograph, $35. Okay, boom. What's your name? Kelsey. Here you go. Next." It's like, "Oh, okay." But I think my mom went to a panel that year, like ghost stories, and it was just, again, there's so many different variety of panels at Comic Cons because everyone submits them. So she went to one about local ghost stories. I went to Tara Strong's voice acting panel. It was fun, but it definitely gave me that taste of, I would love to go to big cons, though it's draining, it's a commitment. It's wow, like like I said, I spent 85% of the time in the vendor hall at that convention alone, like 2.5 hours in one day. And then you kind of go from, now we're easing into the 2010s. There were a lot more bigger conventions now coming on the scene. I think a lot more cons that started out small suddenly kind of exploded in popularity and in size and growth. And the joke, when we get to the con, this is the con. The line con jokes kind of started around 2010, especially for BronyCon, which you'll see. In that time frame, I also started finally venturing out of my comfort zone of Arizona and going to like California. I started going to the East Coast. I went to my first international convention. I started trying out other non-anime cons because I am an anime fan, but I also still love Marvel. I still love comic books. I kind of like furries, and I was kind of becoming a brony at this time because that's when the brony fandom kind of really took off. Was like 2010 and onwards, and we kind of skyrocketed. But also, it kind of taught me that doing more than one con a year kind of drains me financially and emotionally and physically, because it is hard to go to more than, it's easy to plan for one convention. It's harder to plan for like 5, 8, 10 conventions, applying for them, or just trying to get the airfare or time off from work if you have a job. I kind of bounced around jobs during this time frame. So my first international convention was Anime Revolution in Vancouver, Canada. I originally went to this convention because my dad loves Vancouver for some reason, and we had gone up there for a vacation, and he decided, I went, okay, I'll go with you because he paid for the airfare, and we saw on TV a commercial for this anime con, but when we looked at the dates, we realized we had missed it by a week. We were like, darn. And I was like, "Do you want to come back next year?" And I said, "If you're paying, yes." So my dad paid for the hotel and airfare. I only had to pay for my badge, which, because the US dollar is still higher than Canadian, I paid for a premium pass. And that got me like a t-shirt. I got like a sponsor badge. So I got like the really cool, like big lanyard, a big badge. I still have the t-shirt. And that's all I got special, but it was only like $65, my dollars. I think in Canadian it was like 95, 100. So, I mean, obviously in Canadian it's like, ooh, that's a lot. But compared to the US, I was like, yeah, I'm going to splurge the extra $5 more to get the t-shirt and the cool badge and lanyard. I should have paid for the VIP because I didn't get front of the access, but it was definitely funny because when I went to get my badge, they asked for your ID, and I showed my Arizona license. They're like, they look at me, look at my license, look at me again. They go, "Why are you here?" Because I mean, to them, Arizona's pretty far away. And I said, my dad loves Canada. And I'm like, okay. That was kind of just the weirdness was, but it's same minus the money there's a little different, obviously. And I could use my credit card for the most part. And then I had to change my cell phone plan and everything. But it's still the same whether you go to American cons or go to international conventions. I will admit the convention center there in Vancouver is gorgeous. The scenery is gorgeous. It's in the same, for this convention, they hold it in the same part where they do all the cruise ships. So you will see a few cruise ships dock there and even people departing. It was funny seeing the people get off and look at you, all the hoity-toity people going, what are these strange weeaboos walking around in the strange outfits? And they stink. But also had my first taste of apparently in Canada, especially in Vancouver, they have a huge Asian population, and so for them, it's interesting to see different anime takes. Like up there, I saw the huge Re:Zero crowds. I mean, they have and the Love Live crowds. Oh my goodness, I have never been to a Love Live concert, but oh Nelly, they have a dance crew up there too. For one of the closing ceremonies, they actually had the people had the little light up sticks, and they were all going like rah rah. They were cheering and doing that weird. I'm like, I've never seen this before in the States, and it was fascinating. Don't get me wrong, I think it's cool. I just can't see myself being that a dedicated fan to a dance group, but more power to them, man. And this comes to my next story. Yeah, I got lost in Canada. So that first time, I've been to Annie Revo twice now. The first time I went there, I was stupid, but I was a hardcore bro at the time, and when I was walking around the convention center, some people talked to me, and I said, yeah, I'd love to go to like a pony convention, but there's none near me. And they said, pony? I said, are you a brony? I said, yeah, why? They go, actually, there's a pony convention less than like 30 minutes away from here. I said, what? And it's happening right now. I said, what? And so I looked at my phone, and sure enough, there was a convention called Brony Can, C-A-N, happening in Richmond, Canada. And it was a quick, like, 20-minute hop on the train they have there. And they said, if you show us your Annie Revo badge, you'll save, like, 5 or 10 Canadian dollars off your full event. And I said, huh. So I said, well, I already enjoyed the con Thursday and Friday. I said, it's fine. Saturday, I'll go to this pony convention. So I got up early. My dad showed me where the train station was. I kind of figured it out. I said, okay, pay my money, got my pass. I went over the platform. I got on the train fine. It's a quick train hop. The train they have there, they built for the Olympics, so they kept it there. It goes from underground to above ground. It's pretty cool. But when I got off, I had my phone set for the GPS coordinates for the hotel. I went left instead of right. I think I walked probably about a mile and a half. Didn't seem to get any closer to my destination. I kind of went, huh, and I started seeing more residential houses than I did see hotels. I didn't see any signage for pony stuff. So I said, okay, turned around, went back all the way to the station. I said, well, let me go the other direction. Sure enough, I go the other way, and my phone's like, hey, you're no longer now, because I was noticing it was saying, like, you're 5 minutes away, you're 10 minutes away, you're 15. I'm like, okay, the time shouldn't be going up if I'm walking closer to it. So I went the right direction. I found the hotel. I showed my badge. I got extra discount. Cool. Spent the day there at the convention. I spent $300 on a body pillow. Yes, I know. It was a charity auction. Because I was stupid and it was an eBay winning war, and I outbid everybody and nobody outbid me. And then I was playing a card game. And they kept delaying the card game. It was supposed to be at like 5 p.m., and then it was 6 p.m., and then it was 7 p.m. And eventually, we finally started playing around 8 o'clock. I'm tired. And this is before I had a phone charger, and I was playing some games on my phone. So I'm like, I didn't think my phone can last pretty much all day with a charge. Back then it did anyway. So I didn't think much of it, that I would play a few of my games to kind of pass the time while I was bored waiting for this card game to start for the tournament. And by the second and third round of this tournament, and it was already getting close to, I think at that point it was like 10:30, I started kind of panicking because they were like, oh, we're going to do like a half-hour delay or whatever, and I realized the trains don't run all night, and they run until, I think, midnight. So by 11, I was like kind of panicking, going, yeah, we're not going to, I wasn't winning the tournament. I wasn't gonna win any prizes. I only won like one of my 5 games, so I knew I wasn't even in the top 10. So I said, screw it. I'm gonna duck out of here because I'm tired. I'm hot. My phone is kind of going low on its battery, and I promised my dad I'd be home. I'd be back at the hotel by. I was told him by nightfall. I think I had called him at one point and said, "Hey, I'll be later." So I'm like now fast walking back to the train station. I found it. Don't worry. I get in the train. I'm like sweating bullets, holding this giant body pillow and my giant bag of like snacks and all my other stuff. I'm like, I'm tired, but I know I can't sleep because I said I missed my train. And then I get a phone call from the hotel. Of course, it's garbled. It's like, hello, and I'm like, are you the hotel? And I hear, yes. I'm like, can you tell my dad in room whatever I'm coming? Click. Okay. I put my phone back in my pocket. I ride the train back to another station that was in the Vancouver area. So I didn't get off on the station I got on, so that was my other second problem. And what do you think happened? I went left instead of right. I stupidly came out of the station and said, oh, it should be to the left. Turn left. And now it's nightfall, so I don't recognize my surroundings. I'm looking at my phone once again for the GPS to tell me where to go. And I'm noticing the battery power going from like 12% to 11 to 10. I'm kind of panicking again, not recognizing any features around me. It's at this point it was midnight. It was 12:30 at night. I'm tired. So I can't call a cab. There's no cabs in this area, and I'm not recognizing any surroundings. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go up a street. I go up a street and I see like a bouncer throwing out a drunk out of a bar. I walk. I'm holding this giant body pillow and my giant tote bag, going, this is not looking good. I'm a 21-year-old in a foreign country. My phone's at 5% battery power. It's now asking me, do you want to turn off the power? You can say, I'm like, no, please don't turn it off. Like, I was panicking. I've never felt this dread before in my effing life. Sorry. I was scared. And I had a guy pass by go, nice body pillow. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to die in Canada. I don't want to die with a pony body pillow. But somehow my brain said, you know what? Why don't you keep going up? And if you smell the ocean, you're getting close to the hotel. And sure enough, I kept going up a couple more streets. I could smell the water and I could hear the water because I know our hotel was on the water. And then I passed by one familiar landmark and I literally almost kissed this pavement. And these kids that were walking past me that were in cosplay gave me these weird looks like, what the heck is wrong with her? And I'm like, I was like Ariel kissing my legs going, yes, I found it. So I'm like drenched in sweat. I'm walking in the hotel. I ignore the front desk, go past them, go to the elevator, get up to my room. And I kid you not, my dad is a retired cop. So, and at this point, he didn't have a cell phone. Now he does. So he didn't get, I guess the front desk never called him to tell him that I was coming back. And he was kind of scared. Well, I opened the door and I open it slowly and it pans. I can see down into the hotel room and my dad is at the desk. He's swiveled around like a Bond villain, arms crossed, legs crossed, tapping his thigh, going, do you know how late it is? And I look at him, I drop all my stuff. I'm like, Dad, I know. Did they not? He goes, no, they didn't call me. I'm ready to call the police here. You know, call you missing person. I'm like, well, I'm also 21. If I had found a friend or at the bar. So yeah, my dad got mad at me and he goes, are you gonna go back? I'm like, I'm not going back to that pony convention. No. I said, I spent $300 and I had a heart attack. I'm good. I'm gonna shower and go to bed. So I learned my lesson. Don't go left instead of right. And now I always carry a phone charger and my phone never goes below 8% battery power because lesson learned. Don't. So speaking of pony conventions, yes, BronyCon. I've been there 3 times. I sold at it twice. I did not go the last year, unfortunately, because I could not get in. It was very hard to. Apparently, everybody tried to get in. And Brony Convention, especially BronyCon itself, are very much similar and not similar to other conventions you may have experienced. I know you might go, ew, bronies, I don't want to watch this, ew, turn off. But just hear me out. Not all the bronies are gross and nicky. There are some. There are some gross ones. I mean, every fandom got them. We got toxic, we got non-toxic. But it definitely was an experience, I will admit. Like, it's a very friendly atmosphere. People are very loving and caring. And the cosplayers, some of them are really great. Like, some of the fursuits are phenomenal. And it was a different kind of experience, which I don't think we're going to see ever again, where BronyCon, I think, began, like, in 2010. 2011 maybe. It was a very small, like I think it was like 85 people showed up to their first convention, and their last year alone I think had like 5 or 10,000 people there. Like that's nuts. I mean, again, that picture shows like that vendor hall. That was the vendor hall. Hall A there was the vendor hall. You go underneath there, and that was the vendor hall. But yeah, that whole thing was that promenade was just packed full of people, and it was just again it was wall to wall people most of the time. Most of the panel rooms were full. I went to a couple of panels there. I actually won a plushie. Yes, I won. I still have it. It's an Applejack plushie. I think done by Equestria Plush. She's a very good artist. Look her up. You'll see like she makes like well made. Like her plushies go for like $400, and I got it for free in a panel. Yeah, I got lucky. My friend actually worked security at BronyCon for 3 years, and again I sold it twice. Wasn't too bad. It was definitely the people have their fandom clicks and everything, and so yeah. Speaking of BronyCon, I have another story. It was, I think, the second year I was there. I was selling. My friend was part of the security. So he was on security. I was selling the artist alley. So we couldn't really stay up super late. And it was, I think, the second night we were there. We could smell it in the elevator in the hallway leading up to our room. And then when we got to our floor, it reeked of beer. I don't like drinking, but I know what alcohol smells like. And it got worse when we got closer to our door and we realized it was our neighbors. Like the first day they weren't there. Second day they must have checked in that morning. I mean, this is like late afternoon. We got back from the convention like around I think 5-6 o'clock, and we could smell the booze. Like it was just wafting off the door. We go into our room, and our room stinks because they have those shared doors for most hotels. So our room was stinky of alcohol. It was just nasty. We tried to ignore. We took a couple showers and we sprayed our perfume just kind of, and we opened the door to kind of air out our room a little bit. And we kind of both said, "Hey, let's hope they leave or they don't party all night." Well, my friend had to get up early to do security. He had to be, I think, at the convention by like 7:38, and I had to be down there for their hall like around 9. So we both had to get up pretty early. And it was about 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11. They were having a party. They were drunk. They were banging around. They were making noise. And my friend he's not a Karen, don't get me wrong, but he has his yeah, I'm done moment. And that's when he had it. He called the front desk and said, "Hey, our neighbors are being really annoying. We have to get up early. Can you tell them to shut up?" And next thing you know, we hear the door, and we hear them all go, "Shh, be quiet, shh." And we hear, "Yes? Hi, ma'am. We got a call in regards to your room. You're just a little noisy. Can you just turn it down a little bit?" "Oh, sure, no problem." "Shh. God, I wonder who called on us." Oh, we're like, "Oh, God." So we waited about another 20 minutes. They turned the music back on. They didn't give a crap. So we called again. And at that point, we hear again and the door opens up and they go, "Ma'am, you're now told you to leave." And we go, "What? I have to leave?" It was like, yeah, you had to leave. So she pretty much had to shut up, pack up, and leave. And we didn't see them for the rest of the weekend. But I've never had that issue at any other con. And they weren't part of the Brony convention. I'm pretty sure they're probably just some girls that were in their bachelorette party and thought it'd be cheaper to do in a hotel. But it was just so stinky and disgusting, like the smell. And I don't know which night it was. Either the night I think it might actually the night prior to that. It was around I think midnight or 1 in the morning. The fire alarms went off, and at Phoenix Comic Con, it was notorious back in the day that somebody would always pull the fire alarm. It was kind of a joke saying who's gonna pull the alarm, and sure enough, at BronyCon, I jokingly said that saying, "I wonder who's gonna be any fire alarms pulled." The hotel and the convention weren't connected, so sure enough, it was like midnight, 1 in the morning. I thought, okay, the alarm's gonna go off, it's gonna turn off. We're sitting there in bed and we keep hearing it go off, and the announcement saying, "Please leave your rooms. Woo! Please leave your rooms. Woo!" You're like, "Will it turn off?" And like, "Please evacuate the building." Woo! You're like, So we had to get dressed. My eyes are blurry because I had a face mask on, so I can't see. Even my glasses, I can't see. I'm trying to I have like no bra on, so I'm trying to get like some pants on and my shoes, and we grab our phones and our room keys so we don't forget them in case anyone breaks into our room. We scurried down 6 flights of stairs at midnight. It was humid. This is Baltimore, by the way. It's humid and hot. And we're sitting outside, everybody else going, okay, can we go back in? We see no smoke, and eventually, like, the alarm turns off and tells us to go back in. Later on, we asked the front desk about that, and they said apparently it was a faulty wiring that made the thing just go off. And we're like, so no one pulled it? No, no one pulled it. It was literally just the faulty wiring. It's like, oh, thanks. Thanks. Do we get a discount for that? No. We did get a discount for the drunks, though. My friend did complain, saying we did have some very annoying neighbors, and they knocked off, like, I think, like $100 off our hotel. So, hey, when in doubt, don't forget, always tell hotels any issues if you're at a convention, whether it be you have like, we had drunk neighbors that were disgusting or anything like that. And then that same convention, I also forgot my PayPal Square reader there, you see? We had gotten to the con. Again, I flew across the country, so I'm from Arizona. You can imagine I get to the con, I'm looking through all my stuff going, oh crap. My friend's like, what's wrong? I said, my credit card reader's back at home. I talked to my mom, and she paid the FedEx. She FedExed it to me. I got within 24 hours. She paid, I think, like $40 to ship it to me. I made I think 4 credit card sales the entire weekend. I felt so bad. I should have told her, nope, I didn't need it. But you never know. Hi, Furby. I warned you guys. Sorry, I have cats. They like to scream when I'm talking. So. And yeah, I was at Phoenix Comic Con when that incident arose. There was an incident a couple years ago at Phoenix Comic Con where a gentleman tried to harm people. Well, I say try to. He didn't really get to do anything. He had threatened online on social media that he was going to stab or kill, I think, the Green Ranger or whatever. One of the Power Ranger guy was there at that convention that weekend, and his one friend online pretty much told everyone, like, he told the cops saying, hey, this guy is bad news. It happened, I think it happened on a Friday evening. Was it Friday or Saturday? I think it was Friday. Yeah, I think it was a Friday evening when it happened. Because like midday, because we didn't know about it, and I remember everyone's phones were blown up. We're all like, I was in the vendor hall selling, and we're all just like, what's going on? What's going on? And, oh, the police got somebody. The only thing that really affected us majorly was the next day they cracked down on security like tenfold. It was a Saturday, so it was our biggest sale day, and that was the day where we had 3-hour waits to get into the convention. And us vendors saw it because we were down below. We got there early, and we waited and waited, and we hear the announcement saying, "The hall is now open," and you hear crickets. There was nobody. And then, of course, I hate to say it, every other con kind of followed suit with cracking down on security. I think a lot of cons also started doing more bag checks, more weapons checks. A lot of them banned real weapons or realistic weapons. So yes, you can blame Phoenix Comic Con for that, unfortunately, and the jerk guy that did all this crap. But yeah, we didn't really. I know a lot of us will admit that it did hurt sales from Comic Con that year because I believe a couple of vendors were told they couldn't sell their merch. I think the lightsaber people were told to leave because they kind of caused a commotion. But we definitely noticed that Saturday we didn't see sales come in until like almost 1 or 2 p.m. Like that was a super slow, and for a Saturday we were all kind of like crap. And the Sunday was pretty slow too, and even the year after, people were scared to come to the con because they were afraid that they're gonna get shot, I guess. And I'm like, no, guys, no. But yeah, don't be scared of cons. This doesn't happen very often. Like I said, this was a really wackadoodle incident. Wasn't fun making the news, and hey, I was there during it. I didn't see the guy, but like I said, I was there. And another fun story of mine, one of my first furry conventions, I had 2 people destroy my display. So I was working at a restaurant at the time, and it's near a CVS. And one time on my break, I looked over and they were tossing things in their garbage, and they tossed out this Beanie Baby stand. And I'm like, I want that. It's free. It's a metal display. And I asked CVS people, said, yeah, sure, you can take it out of the dumpster. So I got in the dumpster, I got it out. I took it home, I cleaned it up, and it was like, yeah, it was fine. It was just minus the Beanie Baby logo. So I thought, cool, I'm gonna use it eventually for cons. And so I applied to a furry convention. I got into it in my state. I'm like, okay, so I was like, well, I'll bring this display stand because I want to actually use it for once. And my friend had gone back to the hotel, I think, to get either I think I forgot my credit card reader again. I keep forgetting that a lot. Don't forget stuff, people. I think he was giving me lunch too, and I was sitting there at my table, just kind of staring off into space, and I looked out of the corner of my eye, and I saw these 2 kids, one in a full fursuit, one not. The one that was not in the fursuit, his friend in the fursuit ran up behind him and like piggybacked on top of him. Well, in my brain, I said this is not going to turn out well, and sure enough, the guy that wasn't wearing the suit couldn't hold his friend, obviously, because he's a smaller guy, and it threw him off balance, and he started hip hopping towards me, and then his friend tilted, and they both collapsed onto my table and onto my BB stand. I sat there stunned, kind of just staring at the scene, and I didn't mean to. I started to cry because I've never had anyone destroy my display. These two kids, I mean, they were okay. I was okay, but my display got ruined. Everyone came to my aid. They're just like, "Are you okay?" And I was like trying to say I'm fine, but I started crying because I get emotional. And the kid said, "I'm so sorry. I'll be right back." And the one kid, and they both took off. I'm like, "Oh, they're gone." No, the one kid came back. He handed me $100 and said, "I'm so sorry I destroyed your display. Hopefully that covers it." And I kind of was like going to tell him, like, I got out of the dumpster. It's fine, but I was choking on tears. I kind of just nodded. Thank God my friend was not there. He probably would have killed them. I told him, I said, "Dude, when you come back, I'm crying. Don't freak out." But yeah, unfortunately, when the kids fell on top of the display for the baby thing, it's a very soft plastic or metal. So when they land on it, it pretty much it crushed it, it bent it. My friends are like, "Oh, you can get a mallet," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's still gonna have it's already pliable now. It's like putty." I was like, and plus I got it for free, so I threw it away when I got back home. But I'm not saying all furries are bad. No, it's just I had this one incident, and I didn't make a lot of money. I kind of laughed. Without that kid giving me $100, I would have been like in the red for that convention. So I barely broke even there. And furry cons are a different thing. I mean, they're cool. I love the fursuits; they're really cool. But you don't make a lot of sales unless you do commissions. So, but they are fun to go watch the furry parades and everything. So we kind of get into more of the modern day today. The 2020 should have been fun. I started doing conventions like almost full time this last couple of years, but because of this pandemic, we kind of have the problem now where a lot of cons are postponing, a lot of them canceled. Uh, I know pretty much all of my cons for the rest of this year have already canceled now. Phoenix Comic Con canceled. They postponed first, but they canceled now for next year. Tucson Comic Con canceled. SAC Anime canceled. Finally, Matsuri finally canceled. And it does suck because a lot of us plan our conventions out months, even a year in advance. So I haven't had to worry too much for the table cost minus the Matsuri one, but I don't know about them. They're idiots. Unfortunately, I did have airfare for that con, and I only got a credit because Southwest kind of sucks. So it's kind of, I think it's going to be hard for a lot of us moving forward. If we get our tables rolled over, we might have that issue. I think a lot of kids will be scared to go to cons a little bit. So, I don't know. We'll see what 2020 has to offer. But we kind of have seen the rise of virtual conventions. I've taken part in, I think now, like 10 or so virtual conventions. The best one so far I've done was Anime Lockdown. WebCon wasn't that bad. CozyCon was kind of eh. I did not get an Isekai Con. Some of these cons have let everybody in. Some of them haven't had a limited number of people coming in. I didn't get to experience a lot of the panels. This is my first time actually hosting a panel, so thank you for coming. Most of these most of these cons are run on either like Discord or Zoom or a few on their own select websites. It's kind of been hit or miss for a lot of these cons. Some of them I only heard about recently. Others you kind of go, "Oh, I didn't know about that." And some of them are kind of niche. Some are kind of not. So kind of like the pros and cons. I would say virtual cons are affordable. Most of them I have not seen. I don't think any of them charge entry. I think a select few do. If you want to sell at them, most of them are free. I don't recommend if they cost money to go to them. Just saying. Hey, you can be in your PJs or you can be naked. Nobody will see you. You have to worry about, like I had, my drunken neighbor incidents. You can also reach a new audience. There's no waiting in line or getting up early to wait. You can actually later on rewatch a panel that you may have missed. That's kind of cool. But I would say the cons of the virtual cons being there could be time zone differences. Like this convention, for instance, I'm on the West Coast. Most people are on the East Coast. So when you say 6 p.m. your time, it's more like 3 o'clock my time. So it's a little different. So you may have that issue where you might do an online con and they say the panel's at like 10 p.m., but it could be like midnight where you're at or 2 in the morning. So it's like, oh, that kind of sucks. There may be a limited variety of panels, as in not a whole lot of things to look at or do. You may not get some big celebrities like you would at a real convention. You know, at the real cons, you have people. You also need a computer and internet kind of stuff. Otherwise, you need it could be smaller crowds too. I mean, a lot of these online cons, Discord servers, I don't think have a cap or a limit. Hi, I can hear somebody. Hello, I'm almost done. I'm sorry. I'll stop talking in a bit. But yeah, I also know some of these virtual conventions are run by volunteer staff or by inexperienced staff. I actually had one convention cancel like a day before they were supposed to do their con because the person that was running it was only one person. They said, "Oh, I can't do it. I'm too much to do." It's like, yeah, cons aren't easy to run. I don't recommend running a convention. They're not easy. And plus, you have the problem with internet trolls and spam and viruses. So if you're curious how many conventions or what cons I have done or been to, some of these no longer exist, whether because the con just ended or other issues. I've sold at most of these. A couple I've just been to, just kind of top, a few of them. I did Rose City Comic Con this last year, did okay. I've been to Anime Revolution, which is up there in Canada, like 3 times now. I want to go back next year, maybe. I've done a lot of the pony conventions, so you'll see the BronyCon, BronyCon, BAV, Pacific PonyCon, Ponyville Cider Fest, Everfree, and a couple others no longer exist. I've done a few fur conventions, like FurCon and Peninsula FurCon here in Arizona. I did small, like, one-shots, like YumaCon, a couple one-day shells, like library cons and such. So yeah, I've done a few here and there. Kind of fun. Just to kind of run down real quick what to expect when cons start up again, if you've never been to a con. Hotel conventions tend to be all in one. You're stuck in one location. So you're going to have, typically the vendor hall is either going to be open in an open atrium area or in their main ballroom or one of their ballrooms or their conference rooms. Some cons may rename the rooms like Panel Room 1 or Main Events, making fun of it, like MANE, main, get it? Or they may have an adjoining convention center connected to the hotel, so you might have to go through like a tunnel or outside to get to the convention center. Typically, hotel cons can be a little bit smaller in terms of attendance. You're not going to see like 20,000 people, rarely. Or if you do, that's probably going to be with a convention center connected to it. Be careful of the elevators. They're going to have long lines during the peak hours. The peak hours being when the vendor hall and main events open and when they close. So try to leave early or stick it out and wait to the end. You will learn that con BO is real and it stinks and it's horrible, and avoid the game room at all costs. Please shower. Just please. It's not a joke. Please shower. I know virtual cons, we don't smell you, but when we come back to real cons, please shower. Just please. We beg you, please. But yeah, you'll find the hotel cons a little more niche, a little more smaller event-wise. Then you got the big boys, the convention center cons. These are the huge spaces. These are the ones that are going to take up, the major convention centers. There are some small convention centers I've been to, like here locally, like in Tucson where I live. We do have a convention center, but it only fits like I think at most like 25,000 people, and I've never seen a capacity for any of my cons there. So, but I've been to like Phoenix where we do reach capacity. Yeah, you're gonna have line con here. You're gonna have to get up early, get in the line. If you want to go to a 4:00 panel, you better be in that line by 2:30. Yeah, that kind of thing. You're going to see tournaments either for card games or fighting games, or for anything. You're going to see the big leagues. So if you're going to wear cosplay, wear your good cosplay. You can still wear your homemade one. Just keep in mind that it's better for the hotel con to wear like the homemade cosplay versus the Pen Center one. You want to bring your A game. You want to the best. You're going to find big name celebrities a lot of times. Again, big panel rooms or small panel rooms. A lot of times there'll be industry panels sometimes, so you may have guests from the big leagues, so like Crunchyroll and Funimation, those kind of things. You're going to have probably more on travel costs to get there, and the hotels nearby may be a little more expensive, so you definitely plan your budget accordingly. Plan travel. You may want to carpool with your friends, and again, plan. And then you're gonna have the smaller events, the library. I call them library cons. They are kind of taking off the last few years. I've been to a few of them. They're typically held in libraries, but I've had a few held at rec centers and at boys and girls clubs, and even at community colleges. They're typically only one day, not even the full day. They can be like a few hours. They're pretty much free to the public because they're kind of supposed to be a means for you to go to the library to kind of to self promote the library. I've seen a lot of the cosplay groups go to them. You'll see a lot of local artisans will also partake in their little miniature artist alley and everything. It's a good, if you've never been to a con, I recommend trying to find these small events near you. Just type in like library con and you'll probably find a ton of them. And they're not all about comic books. Some of them actually are about anime and manga or even some little furry conventions. And yeah, they're really fun. They tend to draw in more of the carnival food and games, like you might see like the bouncy houses or like the spin a wheel. Again, I've been to some where they're held at libraries, a few held at like some schools, and even a few held at a boys and girls club. And they're all pretty much the same. They can be outside too, so definitely bring sunscreen and umbrella and water. They're smaller crowds, so if you want to get that taste of the con life, that I don't think library events are going to go away anytime soon, but they're probably going to slowly trickle back in once we start going back to, you know, cut face to face with people. And these are my last two major artist alley tables that I did two major conventions. I did Anime Los Angeles, so on the left. That was back in January. That's a full 6-foot table. I was in the corner, so fun. And the one on the right is from Tucson Comic Con. That's here locally. Back in 2019, I was around November. So yeah, so I want to show you that that's kind of like again, the vendor halls tend to be in these massive, at least the convention centers tend to be in these massive areas with the skylights, and you're going to have like 200, 300 artists all jam packed into an area. And then my last in-person event was a library event called Apache Junction. I think it was Apache Comic Con. It was their little, I saw it. I said, sure, one day event. I'd never been to Apache Junction. It was about an hour, 45-minute drive for me. It was all the way back on March 7th before my birthday. And I made like $40. It wasn't a whole lot of money. And again, we were in a library, as you can see behind us. We were in a small room adjacent to the main library. So we were like all the way in the back. We were in a very small, it was like a meeting room they had because they had a projector and everything. But there was there was 10 of us artists in there. They kind of had us all in a semicircle around the room. So it was kind of fun. But yeah, that was my last in-person event for this year, unfortunately. So kind of keep in mind, I think when cons do return, we're definitely going to see a rise in sanitizers and face masks, probably plural, as in like you have to probably bring more than one mask. You probably have to change your masks out either throughout the day or probably change them each day, which would be fun for some cosplayers. Probably carrying more Clorox wipes than we normally would, and I would recommend instead of bringing a bottle to fill up with water, bring your own bottled water because you don't want to share. I'm saying that's probably what we're going to expect to see going forward with conventions. They're probably going to have mandatory cleaning stations and probably temperature checks. It's going to be a different experience when cons do come back because it's going to be crazy. So yeah, that's kind of all I got. We got about 15 minutes if you guys want to ask any questions. I don't know if you're all muted or not. If you can unmute yourselves, you can talk. You want to ask me anything? I mean, I can. So yeah, if you got any questions.
I just wanted to say that I really liked your panel, and I think I like that you put the variety of the library cons as well and the one-room cons, because I feel like a lot of people aren't familiar with those, where they can meet their own local artists, because people only think about like the large cons.
Yeah, I didn't really think about these library cons until about 4 years ago. My friend, I'm part of the Arts Alley Circuit, so I have some friends that would tell me, they go, hey, there's a convention. I'm like, convention? It's only one day. How is that a con? They're like, no. It's called a library con. I'm like, okay. It's like $30 for a table. Cool. It's an hour for me from driving. Cool. I mean, for $30 an hour drive, I can like $200. That's not a bad for one day. And I meet new people I haven't seen before. And a lot of the kids that go to library cons can't afford or don't know about the bigger cons. you'll be shocked how many people will tell you, "I never heard of Phoenix Comic Con. What's that?" And you're like, "Oh, oh." Some of the parents hate me for that. They're like, "Don't tell my kid about that." I'm like, but it's a fun. Don't. But it's fun. I mean, I had at least one parent that I went to one library con for like 2 years in a row, and they found me each time. They go, "Oh, we bought from you last time. We still have your stickers." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." Yeah, the library cons are fun, especially because you see a lot of the local groups. I forgot that even in my area, I have a local Star Wars cosplay group and a was it like the Marvel and Disney princesses groups and even Ghostbusters. We have local groups all for those people, and they are dedicated cosplayers just for that, and they only go out to those library cons typically.
Yeah, that's actually where I started my convention experience. We're at those small little cons, and it's really if you want to make like very like meaningful relationships and make friends, which could be very intimidating in a large con setting. These little cons are so good for that because when you start going to one little con, you'll start noticing the same people in all of the other smaller library cons or just the small cons in general, and then you'll start seeing them in the large cons. Yeah, so it's very wholesome.
Yeah, and plus I've been to one of them where they limited the age group where you can only be between ages of like, I mean, it was like 10 and 18. They didn't let anyone over 18 go in there. And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of fascinating," but those kids, God, they had money. They were throwing down $20 bills on my table going 2020.
It's so like, true. No, it's so true. Like the little cons tend to attract younger people, and they spend so much money, and like sometimes because they attract kids, the parents don't know about big cons or they don't feel comfortable bringing their kids to the bigger cons, so they live for these little cons. Like they will like throw money for like all the comics and merch for their kids.
The big cons either. Like I said, but me being an artist personally, I'm in it for the money. Sorry guys, we love you, but we put on that retail smile. We don't really love you. I mean, I hate to say it, it's the retail smile. If anyone knows, if not, you need to work retail for at least a week and you'll learn it. You are a salesman, and it's easier when you're a big fish in a smaller pond. You're gonna make a lot more money. And I've done cons long enough to know what kids like and how much money they have to spend, and so I'll offer like grab bags or items under $1, and they just grab it, And nothing wrong with the little cons either. Like I said, the library cons, if you are new to Artist Alley or you're new to conventions, it's good to start out your panel there first before you decide, I want to make my panel at San Diego Comic Con. They'd be like, yeah, what's your references or what's your experience? None. Next. You got it. I mean, some cons will even ask, when you fill out for your like either panel or for your Artist Alley, they'll ask you, what other events have you done? And if you say none, they're gonna be like, it's your resume. So it's also good for experience too.
And then my other comment that I just wanted to make is I also think your panel is so important coming from a virtual convention. And the reason for that is there's actually a lot of people who have never attended an in real life convention, either because of like finances or because they're a little bit on the younger side or it's harder to travel. But it's really interesting how many people have had their first convention experience during the pandemic through these virtual conventions. So your panel's like really interesting because now they can learn about all these other, like what a real in life convention is like.
Drunks and getting lost in Canada. Yes, and getting your license plate stuff. Yeah, everything is so good. Yeah, these are very small stories. Don't forget, most of my cons, I will admit that after every convention, I lose my voice for like 2 days because I talk so much, and I do miss the interactions. It's funny, I'm an introvert, but I am a people person when it comes to conventions. I love talking about my fandom favorites, and I used to love wearing cosplay too, but I love people. It's harder with online because I can't. You're not walking past me, and I can't say, "Oh, cute T-shirt," or "Oh, I like that show too," or "Oh, I love your cosplay." I can't say that because you're virtual. I can't see you. You can't see me. It's not the same, And granted, it was tiring sitting at my table for 8 or 9 hours. My feet were hurting, my butt was hurting. You bring a butt cushion, man. If you're gonna go to cons, bring a butt cushion. and wear comfy shoes. Do not, just because you're cosplaying a character that wears high heels, you don't have to wear the high heels all the time. You can bring a pair of comfy like Crocs or whatever, because you're gonna hate it. Going up and down stairs, you're gonna walk on tile and carpet, it's gonna hurt. I wore an Attack on Titan cosplay once, selling at my table, and oh, the boots hurt my feet so much. I came back going, ow, 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 ow. Toes crinkling. It's like, ow. Yeah, again, but I hope people, if it's your first experience with a convention, that's great, but I really, really hope people can at least go out to cons when this is all said and done, because conventions are an experience. I can't tell you, I've made friends at cons, I've learned new stuff. It feels like you step out of reality for a moment. You literally take a step into your fandoms and your fun. You get to have a blast. You get to be a fan and a weeaboo again, and just be like, oh hey, there's a My Hero cosplayer. There's a Deadpool again. Oh, Deadpool again. Oh, Spider-Man. Oh, there's Elsa running around. It's just it's fun. I love looking at all the booths. To me, it always blows my mind when I set up my table and I blink, and like 20 minutes later my table is set up, but then in 3 days it's gonna be gone. It's a temporary thing. And you look out in the sea of other tables and other booths, and you're just like, it's all gonna be gone in like 3 days. That's mind blowing. We built this shit. Sorry to say that. We build it in like 20 minutes and we take it down 3 days later. We literally build a mini city, and that's the best part.
Yeah, definitely. And there is post-con depression that you'll see thrown around online, and it's just because it's so amazing, and you escape reality that when you go back to your real life, you're like, man, I miss
you go back to your real job, and you're just like, this sucks. Because again, I sell at cons, so for me, it is a job, yes, but it's a fun job because I'm my own boss, so I can, if I want to give you a discount, I can give you a discount. It's my stuff. I can do that. It's mine. People always laugh at me and I tell them that, and they look at me, I'm like, really? I'm like, it's my stuff. I can say if I want to give you $1 off. If you're gonna buy it, and you really, I've had some kids come to my table, I'm like 30 cents short, or I'm $1 short, and I go, here, they go, really? I'm like, it's my stuff. I can't do that at Target, or my other job. I work in retail, so no, I can't do that in retail, but I don't own the store.
Definitely. Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask?
We got a few minutes, guys, and I'm talkative now. I actually slept last night, so I'm actually awake. Oh, I guess another story I have is like my first convention I sold at, the Amiland 2Con one. I was insomniatic my first time for that con. I did not sleep for 3 days prior to that con because I was so nervous. I had never had that happen before in my life, and I was like, that was the first time I had to find like a sleep pill to knock my butt out. I just couldn't sleep. And trust me, 3 days without sleep sucks. I've now learned at conventions, I bring sleep pills. Nothing wrong with that. If you want to conk your butt out, you take that stuff.
There's comments saying great panel. I loved it. I was laughing so hard. Your storytelling cracks me up.
Thank you. To me, in real life, I'm very animated when I tell these stories. Yeah, the Canadian Lost one is probably my best one. I didn't mean to. I still have that body pillow, by the way. If you want to know what it is, it's the mascot from Brony Can called Princess Apricity. They had a charity auction for one of their charities, and I wanted to win the plushie, but it went over my price point. It was like $800. I'm like, oh no, that's too much for me. Even in Canadian dollar, that's still like $700 in the US. I'm like, oh no, I'm not paying $1,000 for a plushie. And then they brought out the body pillow. I'm like, I love the design. It's really cool. And I was like, okay. In my mind, I said, I think was $200 was my limit. And people were bidding like $5 increments. They were like saying like 30, 35, 40, 45. I'm like, no. I was like 75. Room goes quiet. I'm like, yeah. And then they're like 80. I'm like, who's that? I'm like 95. They're like, 100. God damn. So I kind of got in that bidding war, and I think I got to like 240 or 250, something like that. And then the other guy dropped out. I'm like, oh darn it! And they go, sold to the girl that wouldn't give up. I'm like, damn it! Like, do you guys take cards? They go, no, only cash. Great, I'll be right back. Remember the ATM in the lobby. And I'm like, I think it was like a $3 fee. I'm like, I hate you. Putting my card in, going, how much do you want? $300. God, I hate this. And I told my dad. I told my dad later, and he's like, why did you spend that much money on a body? I'm like, it was for charity. It was charity. I later learned the worst part was apparently the vendor that donated that pillow. He also made one for the con chair, but then apparently he had extras and he sold them for like $40 in the vendor hall. People were like, "How much did you pay for that?" I'm like $200. They go, "Oh, it's like $40 in the vendor hall." I was like, "What?" They go, "Yeah." I was kind of ticked. So I found the vendor who sold it. And I told him, I said, "Hey," I said, "I kind of heard a rumor." He goes, "Yeah, I had extras. I only promised 2, but I had like 10." I said, "What are you going to do about that?" Because I was promised at the charity auction almost be 2 of these made ever. And he said, "Oh, I'll give you another body pillow for free." I'm like, "Oh, sweet. What do you want?" I said, "I want the other character." Cool. Never got it. Never got it. I sent an email like, I think 6 months later. He goes, "Oh, yeah, I got it. Never got it. Eventually, 4 years later, the vendor's friend gave me a free plushie. So I guess that kind of works. Oh yeah, when we had to get back home with that pillow. It didn't want to go in the suitcase. My dad was like, "Why don't we take the body pillow out and just keep the case?" Dad, I paid $300 for keeping the pillow in the case. It fit. I prayed to every god there was in heaven and hell and wherever that the TSA would not open that bag because it was spring loaded. We had to sit on the suitcase and zip it closed. I prayed the TSA wouldn't be like, let's check this random bulgy bag and spring. What is this sexy looking pony pillow? And yet I still have it. It is my badge of honor, my badge of shame. I will keep it until the day I die. Because it's my reminder that yes, you spent that much money on that pillow and you're gonna keep it.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Alien Kitty, for your panel.
No problem.
Okay, so our next panel that we're going to have is anime trivia, which is going to happen in this room. So I'll have Ari set up, but feel free to stay, everyone, for the trivia game as well.